So back when FM Immortal first started out, our second ever video, and by some way still our most popular, was this fella, where we ranked the top 5 attributes by each position in the game to help you filter out the wheat from the chaff when it came to being your own scout. It remains a great concept, but the video was awfully produced. Just ask this guy, who said if this video had good production, it would probably be one of the most well-made and insightful FM videos ever. Yeah, thanks for that, buddy. Well, we've since bagged another 1,000 hours or so of FM since deploying that video, and we've learnt a thing or two from the new game in its first few months as well. So there might be a few changes to our previous opinions in this video, but without further ado, buckle up for the top 6 attributes per position in Football Manager. We're going to mix things up and start with midfielders then. The rest of the positions are all timestamped if you do want to skip forwards, and we've a section on what's important for young players specifically, and of course our take on what the core attributes are. Kicking it off with centre mids. Now obviously this will vary somewhat depending on the role you're playing with, and there's going to be significant differences between your deep lying playmakers and your metsalas in terms of ordering, but for us the big 6 are dribbling, positioning, technique, composure, vision, and then most important is passing. An honourable mention here would be work rate and stamina, particularly if you're playing without a DM in your team. You're going to want a ball-winning midfielder in that case, in the centre at the very least, to be your engine. But for us the Metsala and the advanced playmaker roles are our favourites, and these attributes sell us on a player, especially if they can break into the top level bracket that we're showing here on screen. Moving into DMs then, and the 6 that we're looking for when scouting for the new Makalele are, in reverse order, positioning, stamina, work rate, passing, composure, and most importantly is tackling. If the lad can't tackle, i.e. if they have 11 or below for this attribute, they are not sitting in front of my back line. This position gets tens of cards over the season, and for that reason I also try to avoid someone with the dives into tackles player trait when filling my DM roles. As for attacking midfielders, we've kept this controversial attribute in because we think it's the one position you notice it most. But flair is in at number 6, and if you've ever seen a player with 20 flair on this game, you'll know how much fun it is to inject into the match engine. The top 5 though, we've got long shots, which are particularly strong in FM24, followed by dribbling, then decisions, passing, and most importantly vision. If you've got an advanced playmaker behind your striker or strikers, you're going to need that player to spot the runs and time the passes to perfection, and also to be as selfless in front of goal in order to maximise your goal scoring potential. The top 3 attributes here will serve you very well in these cases. Let's move into attackers next, shall we? And when it comes to strikers, the top 6 are going to vary greatly again depending on the role your forwards are taking up. We put this video out there shortly after FM24 was released, and we recommend checking that one out if you do want more detail on what matters to the likes of target forwards or deep lying forwards. But this video will assume the attributes play more to an advanced forward, as we think it's more popular in the average tactic. The big 6 for an AF then will be first touch, off the ball, pace, dribbling, and then perhaps surprisingly, finishing has been pipped to the post by composure. Now this might come as a surprise to you, and we do need to say at this point that all of these rankings are based predominantly on my own opinion. However, that in itself is based upon thousands of hours of FM experience, and since FM Immortal was incepted, a good number of more scientific in-game tests as well. Composure though has become increasingly important in FM23 and FM24, we feel. We like to think that the match engine for this game is the product of thousands of simultaneous calculations that, at their core, are basically dice rolls and percentage likelihood that a player can take the right action at the right time. It must be the most complicated script in gaming history to simulate a realistic match of football, but hear me out. If your player has got into the right position, he's received and controlled a pass, He has the pace and dribbling to advance on goal and has in mind the perfect shot, that is finishing, to beat the goalkeeper. Then it is composure to execute all of that, which is the final dice roll, and in our opinion, where everything potentially falls down. So if your roll is a critical fail at that final hurdle, you're going to miss more chances than you score. That was a very long one. Next up, wing forwards. Now, your wing forwards are not too dissimilar to advanced forwards for a number of their attributes here, but the ordering is going to differ. First up, in 6th place, we have off the ball. Then comes passing and crossing, which are the only other things you'd expect as the end product for a winger to possess beyond shooting, which comes next in finishing. And then the top 2 are going to be acceleration and the most important, dribbling. So this is a fairly self-explanatory one, we think. Is there anything you were expecting to be here that isn't? Let us know down in the comments. Moving backwards and picking up defenders next then, we're going to add to our previous video where we only covered centre-backs and wing-backs by speaking as well about full-backs and ball-playing defenders. We'll start with centre-backs though, and there's no change in our opinion here really. You want your centre-backs to have good jumping reach, good marking, the strength to push attackers off the ball, and good positioning to ensure that you are countering the attackers off the ball movement. But the big 2 remain tackling and, most importantly in our opinion, heading. Headers are abundant in FM24, and we've spoken about how OP a tall forward is in another recent video, which we're going to link at the end of this one. And therefore it goes without saying that if you don't have someone to clear those aerial threats, you're going to concede a shitload of goals, particularly from corners and indirect free kicks. As for ball-playing defenders, well, we do think this role is back with a bang in FM24 because possession and concentration levels are good ways to counter the seemingly heightened threat of complacency. But let's not shy away from the fact that a BPD is, in essence, the opposite of a no-nonsense defender. You might want to start referring to them as nonsense defenders, or maybe nonces for short. That won't do any harm, will it, Ange? So your top 6 attributes then will include jumping reach, strength and tackling, but also first touch, passing and above all else positioning. And I read that in a peculiar order, I will admit, but positioning is the one thing that I want you to remember here, because if there's a BPD in your tactic and you've got play out of defence on, your goalkeeper, your defensive mids and your surrounding defenders will be looking to this guy to initiate an attack from the back. Now, if he's in a stupid position, their passes may appear wayward and go directly to an opposition player. But it's not the passer's fault if your ball-playing defender is picking his nose in no man's land. Time for a little intervention now as we talk about our perception of what the core attributes are. Now, a few of these have featured in top 6s for the positions we've summarised so far, and they'll be there again when we cover side backs, goalkeepers and the youngsters. But when we say core attributes, we mean anything that plays to player speed, effort and the correctness of passing or shooting. Now, the 10 attributes that we hope every outfield player possesses to a level of at least 11, regardless of their age or at the level you're playing at, are as follows: acceleration and pace, passing, vision, technique, concentration and decisions, as well as work rate, determination and stamina. These are your vitals when it comes to good players in Football Manager. Familiarise yourself with them and don't think on signing any players where more than one of these falls below 11. Okay, let's do wing backs next then, and it's another non-changer really. Their top 6 attributes, in our humble opinion, remain stamina, pace, marking, tackling, dribbling, and the first thing we filter on when looking for a new player in this position is crossing. A decent wing back ought to be able to run down the wing. They'll often have more carries than anyone else on the pitch because they've got the space to run into, and they offer in their overlap a way of exposing those wider channels if you are otherwise playing a fairly narrow attacking formation. And for this reason, as well as the fact that heading in FM24 is seriously strong, we would implore that you prioritise wingbacks that can hit the target man with a good cross, and worry about the defensive qualities they possess later. Now, how this differs for fullbacks, well, they can still do a job going forward, and whilst they might not hug the touchline and give you as much width as a wingback, they can still turn provider, and a decent level of crossing is still a good consideration here. But for me, if I'm playing an FB role, I'm doing so to concentrate on defence rather than attack, perhaps trying to quash an opposition's inverted winger by sitting closer to the centre-backs and again avoiding that nonsense somewhat. Our top 6 attributes for a fullback then are going to be stamina, agility, work rate, tackling, marking and positioning. Nothing really to write home about here. Agility is in there to counteract decent levels of dribbling, and the rest sort of speak for themselves. Now, a few bonus tips here as we share what attributes to look out for in youngsters, and we must add that we've elaborated on this extensively in our video about what to consider before signing up your youth intake. But the attributes my eyes train to when I'm presented with a youth prospect are their work rate, their teamwork, their leadership, but above all else, their determination level. If you've got a hard-working and determined youngster on your hands, and you think they'll get some game time for you in either your youth setup or when you send them out on loan, then they are likely to hit that potential ability level, and therefore, at the very least, go up in value. Last but by no means least then, it's goalkeepers, and there are so many red flags to avoid with goalies in FM24 that we think we'll have to do a video dedicated to exactly that in the near future. So do hit that subscribe button if you're interested in what to avoid in order to minimise keeper catastrophes. But the top 6 attributes for your men between the posts are going to be positioning, one-on-ones, anticipation, and then handling, which means keeping hold of the ball essentially, reflexes, which almost move to the top spot given how deflections play their part in the importance of shot stopping ability in FM24, but remaining the most important attribute for goalkeepers, it is aerial reach, without which you're going to catch fewer crosses, you're going to reach fewer free kicks, and you're generally going to lose command of your penalty area. That is a wrap for our top 6 attributes reprieve, folks. Hope you found this one helpful, fun and informative. Please drop us a like if so. We are FM Immortal, a fairly young channel that tries to produce at least one video a week. Thanks for watching until the end, and until next time my friends, adios.